Hi, everyone. This is Gloria, the host of the Loving the Work You Do podcast. And I have with me Miss Fumi, who is really an auntie, Miss Funmilayo Olugbemi. She is also an awesome Nigerian person that I know, and she is a family psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. And today we are going to be talking about grief, and we will be delving into like the Nigerian perspective of it. We will also get some insights from her on how her background can help us process grief. As you all know, we've had a lot in 2020. One of the experiences that has brought Auntie and I together is that we've both lost a parent in 2020, and we have found some similarities in our grieving process. And so we are sharing that with the whole community, and hopefully at the end you'll stay for her information and reach out to her to see how she can help you too on your journey. So, Auntie Fumi, good morning. Welcome to the podcast. It's an honor to have you here. And I think one of the questions that I'd like to start us with would be the title of the podcast, which is Loving the Work You Do. And so how did you get into this field of family psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner? Like, did you always wanted to be a nurse, or was it something that you later on decided you wanted to do? And if there's like any cheat sheet for people to be able to figure out how they can become a nurse practitioner too when they grow up, that would really be good.
Good morning, Gloria. I thank God for this connection. Thank you for having me. Um, Again, my name is Funmilayo Olugbemi, and I've arrived at this point as a family psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. It's been a long journey. I have been a nurse since 1990, actually since 1989, thereabout. And prior to that, I was actually a master's prepared nutritionist, dietitian, which I
Wow.
decided when I was working in New York City, I wasn't, if at that time, people were not really into nutrition and dietetics. And I worked for like 2 years. It was kind of boring for me. And I've always liked healthcare. So it just so happened that one of the hospitals that I was working at in Brooklyn, East New York, in Brownsville, I remember that. I still remember that hospital, Baptist Medical Center, closed down, and it's like, okay, what do I do now? Okay, do I go to medical school? Again, growing up, I wanted to become a doctor, a
Wow.
pathologist, precisely.
Oh,
But as you grow up, as things evolved, you have to decide, okay, what do I do? And it depends on where you are, because maybe when I got to the United States, that's another story.
okay.
If I had the right mentorship, I would have become a doctor. But I believe I am where God wants me to be. Anyway,
Exactly.
so after the hospital closed down, I decided to go back to school, and I went to State University of New York in Brooklyn.
Ooh, go
Um,
Brooklyn.
yes, I lived in Brooklyn for so many years before coming here. Anyway, so I went there and I spent 2 years, got my bachelor's degree in nursing. During that time, I realized that my main part, because nursing has so many parts. I
Mm,
mean, you can never go wrong in nursing if it's a calling for you, because that's
mm,
another thing. At that time, I like L&D, labor and delivery, and psych at that time, even when I was in school. So I came out, but when I came out, I was so scared of psych, because our notion is that psych people, they will beat you up, they will bite you, they will do this, they will do, so. And I remember a friend of mine, in fact, as we were talking now, I saw her text on my phone. She's now in North Carolina. She used to make fun of me. I was in SICU then. We will work, and she'll be making fun of me. Mama Tolu, and so you're standing up all 12 hours, and I'm like, yeah, I can. Why don't you do psych? I said, no. But all along, I see that as I'm dealing with patients, at that time too, I was doing home care. As I was dealing with patients, there's a mental health part of it that we were always dealing with. When I go in the community to see patients, there's always psych issue going on. I've had to go and give them their psychotropic IM in the community. And so I think, lo and behold, it kind of started evolving with me. But I didn't actually go into psych, becoming a psych nurse, until I moved to Maryland here. I have done research nursing, which is geared to substance use at the National Naval Medical Center. I mean, and that's why I say it's a long story. But eventually, I totally became a psych nurse. But I've done everything in nursing except ER. And one of my reasons for psych is because my goal is to actually remove that stigma in mental health in our community. And because in our community, people can't talk about mental health, but everything is mental health. Because if you don't take care of your mental health, you cannot take care of anything else. You can't take care of your physical health. You can't take care of your spiritual health. Okay. And we, especially in the Christian community, we believe that you can pray everything out. Yes, we can, but faith without works is nothing. We all know that. So this is where mental health comes in, and that's what I want to do, to destigmatize what mental health is all about.
I think we need we need more of it in the community. At least in the Nigerian community. I know, like, even for me, it's taken a while to kind of acclimate myself to the fact that I even have a therapist, because, like, you grew up hearing that people in the Western world had therapists, and you're just like, what do you need that for? But apart from what I found out, at least me, because that's also probably a part of the mental health, and what I found out, it's not even about the part that you work with, which is like even the psychiatric part. It's really about daily living. It's also about getting second opinions, about and maybe that's even how therapy started way back ago, before I think the psychiatric part of it is what people started seeing. And I also think it's a great way not to burden your friends with all your stories and maybe your spouse too.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there are certain things that you really don't want to talk to family about. I mean, it could be the family that is actually making you feel the way you are feeling. So, and when you kind of approach them, or even sometimes friends, they and don't get me wrong, friends may mean well, but you know how, gossiping and doing this and doing that, I was almost about to say it in Yoruba, like, like, see your friend. Yeah. But a therapist, they are bound by law that they cannot divulge what you've already told them, unless somebody's in danger or the person you are talking about is in danger. So your secret or whatever is safe with them. They have to go to their grave with that secret.
That
So
information.
the therapy, having therapy is also, it is good, but and we as Nigerians, we are not, I don't know. I believe we're beginning to open up to it now
Mm-hmm.
because of the situation, that all of us are in now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We now know that just going to church, and don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
church is good, prayer is good, but you gotta do the work.
Yes,
You
yes.
gotta do the,
I believe that too.
yeah,
I believe
yeah.
that too. I believe
So,
that too. Yeah. And the time I feel like, even for me, like now that I know anyway, I'm like, you know what? That's a lot of of work. I've sat at the feet of pastors. I've had conversations with friends, but I found that the 1 hour session, even the days I don't finish my 1 hour with my therapist, like the few times, 30 minutes,
mhm.
it's like you have a conversation from start to ending, as opposed to like you're talking to a friend and maybe something comes up and they're busy, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't finish the conversation. You didn't get the answer. And then you feel mad at your friend,
Yeah,
for not
yeah.
investing
And
all
you
that
may not be
time.
able to continue conversation to
Exactly.
get it off your chest.
Exactly. So I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? I was like, it's such a good thing now. So I like that. So I wanted to ask Auntie, what is pathologist? Because you mentioned that when we were talking.
Pathology is like finding the cause of a disease.
Oh,
Yeah, finding, like, okay, how does this, like evolve and all of that.
okay.
But I mean, I know growing up that was what
Oh,
I I
wow.
wanted to be. But when you wish something and then you get somewhere, and things just evolve
Yeah,
into
yeah,
another thing.
yeah.
But
But like you
um,
said, you're
I'm
still in the line,
yeah,
you know.
I'm not regretting being a nurse practitioner. In fact, I think the journey that I've taken in becoming a nurse practitioner, I think it's much better than becoming a doctor, honestly.
Okay. Okay.
Because as a nurse, you tend to take care of the whole being of that
Mm-hmm.
person, whether mentally, even when
Oh,
you are doing the physical aspect of it, you are able
okay.
to. Nurse is the one that will look into, okay, is this person really taking their medication? Why is it the reason why they're not taking their medication? Is there any way I can find out how to help them to make sure that they are compliant? Doctors mostly don't. I'm
Mm,
sorry to say.
mm. I think in the old school, I saw something either on Facebook. I think the olden days doctors did that, but like the modern time that we're in, nobody
Yeah.
has time to check in
Uh-uh.
on you, to follow up with calls.
No,
That
no.
yeah, so okay, so you provide like that part of it.
Mhm.
Yay. Okay. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Of course we didn't plan for the therapy part, but I think that that was good. So losing my dad like in October, because death is so different. Like I also feel like there's a difference between losing a friend or a brother to like
Mhm.
the death of a parent. And I may also be wrong, I don't know. But I know I've lost a brother and it feels different than when I did lose my dad. But it also appears like there are certain protocols that hey, Nigerian culture brings um with it that I was not aware of. Growing up, I went to my grandparents' funeral, but I didn't know, like, oh, there was clothes, there was parties in those days, on the wow, TTT and all of that. And we had tapioca, but I didn't know like there were other things going around. I think one time I knew of like a family that would do like an ajo for their great grandfather. Like before he died, they were like doing family contribution. But I knew that was like maybe towards when the guy passed. That's like some of the only things I know about when
Mhm.
people pass. But with my dad passing, I found out a lot of things. And I still feel like, they're really cultural and they're information that would be nice for other people to know. So I was wondering, like, on day one, um what are some of the things that you know that so from a cultural perspective we should be aware of as Nigerians? Like who are we calling? Um, um, like what do you do? I even feel like you should have a list, which is funny. Like no one should be preparing for anybody dying, but like my brain was not functioning like minutes after I lost my dad, but I didn't know. So maybe from like a from your medical perspective, like even what should I have done immediately I found out that my dad passed? Like I went to work. I got the call and I went to work after I got the call. And and
Because you
then
were in shock, in denial and in shock. Go ahead.
and no, that's how it started. Like, and then like I was like, oh, to my boss, I was like, oh yeah, so my dad passed, and it's like, so what are you doing? I was like, yeah, I was supposed to
Exactly.
come and do something in the office today, so I wanted to come in and finish it. And then I feel like maybe 2 hours later is like later, like the calls started coming in. And I'll be like, oh, I need to quickly get this call. And later someone was like, this is
You
why
need
you
to
have
go home.
men's leave so that you can go take all your phone calls at home. And then, I was like, oh, we do have, I didn't even think like bereavement leave go one mind to me. It was like, oh, it's your father. That's a close relative. You get XY number of days. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, like me, like what do I need leave for? Like I can do this work and
Mm-mm.
and think about it. But after that, the floodgates just opened. Once I got home and the calls came, people like, I heard your dad passed. I was like, blah, 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 blah. Then just start falling. By evening time, I was having a terrible headache that they already
Yeah.
consumed me on one side of my head. But anyway, so with all of that I have said, how do we do it from like a cultural perspective and a medical perspective? What should we be doing?
Okay. Culturally, I'm going to try because um, I have been in the United States more than like 2/3 of my life. So
Okay.
sometimes I see myself a Nigerian, but mostly like American. It's the grace of God that I haven't lost most of the culture. Uh, raised by my grandmother, I guess that kind of ingrained in me a little bit of the culture that I still remember. I think when a loved one dies, number one, I mean, what happened to you was the right thing because you were in shock. You were in denial and you were in shock. So you pick up your bag and you went to work. I think anybody anywhere in the world will probably do that until it started dawning on them. Like, wait a minute. And then things started happening. And especially since you had the first one born now, because since your brother died,
I have another brother, but I'm the oldest girl.
or the
So
oldest
I'm
girl,
still like, firstborn in my own right, Abby, culturally.
kind of. But if you have an older brother, um, I don't know if it's your older brother that called you or somebody else.
Nigeria
Um,
called. Nigeria.
Nigeria. Okay. Depending on the status of that older brother, um, he would be the one mostly to call everybody,
Ah.
brothers, uncles, aunties, cousins, friends, and this and that, that somebody passed away, especially if it's like a sudden death.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If the person has been sick before and you kind of something you kind of be expectant of somehow. Well, maybe because I'm in the healthcare field, I do know when something is imminent that it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody will take the lead, and usually it's the elder
Mm-hmm.
child
Or
that
maybe
take
during for those of us that are immigrants, it's whoever is on land in Nigeria.
whoever is on land in Nigeria. They will do the calling, but then again, It could be anybody that, okay, oh, I forgot to tell who this. I forgot to tell this person. I forgot, so they will now try, calling. And
Okay.
there are people that you will forget, honestly,
Yeah.
because yeah,
Yes.
there are people that you will totally forget in the process of doing this, doing that.
I forgot a lot of people.
Exactly. Yeah, you preaching to the choir. Anyway, so but it behooves that person, depending on how they are to you, to reach out to you, because
Mm.
they know that at that moment you're just in disarray. There's so many things going on, and then they will be calling you and be offering condolences and saying, I'm here if you need my help. Da, 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 da. Even if you don't answer, they will keep on calling. Okay, so
They'll
that's
bring food, which Nigerian community does. So
yeah.
shout out to the Nigerian
Yes,
community. Food,
they
water.
will come, they will stay with you, they will bring food, they will bring water in our community here in America.
Mm-hmm.
However, if it's in Nigeria, if it's somebody who is old, they will
Mm-hmm.
start, well, I'm from Ibadan. They will start cooking. They will start making akara. They will start possibly making the real amala in Nigeria,
Oh
in Ibadan.
wow.
And so it depends on how well to do that person is. It's almost like every day they're gonna have to be cooking, because people will come
Because
and
it's
they
a
will eat.
celebration.
Yes, and they will eat,
Ah,
especially if the person is older and they
okay.
are prominent in the community.
Okay. Okay.
They will just that will just continue.
Wow.
Yes.
We,
So
we can celebrate.
uh-huh. That's why it's called celebration of life.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay. I like that. I know for me, like I miss a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
um in the whole process. Like it wasn't until like after maybe the day or two after my dad was buried, I was like, like wait, this
I
person,
didn't
that
I didn't
person.
tell such and
I didn't
such.
tell, but
Yeah.
some people were good
Yeah.
and they reached out,
Yeah.
even if I didn't tell, you know, tell them, and I think that I really appreciated,
Yeah.
and I
A
guess
lot
that's
of people will reach out to you. They will.
because like you can't take things like that's happening. That thing affects your mental health so much. Like you can't actually take anyone seriously. Like
Yeah.
or they didn't text me, or like they didn't call me personally, or I texted them, they didn't pick up my call. I just feel like all of that.
Although going there are some people that will be saying, I called her because I had that issue. Oh,
Mm,
I called her and she didn't pick up the phone. I
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah. My
what
brain.
the heck?
For me, I told people, I said my brain. Like I remember someone else in my community, the county that I live, who's Nigerian. I think their parent had passed like earlier in the year. And then when I saw them actually the same day my dad passed, when I was coming back from work that day, I stopped to get something at the grocery store. And they were like, "Oh, you're going to forget a lot of stuff. Just
Of course not.
start getting ready." I was like, he said, "Oh, like his car, he would lock." I think like he had Geico, we became friends or something. Like it just constantly be getting locked out of his car. I was
Mm-hmm.
like that's not gonna happen to me or something. Let me tell you, Auntie. Like one day I was arguing with I can't who was I arguing with? Was it the doctor or somebody? And I was like, this thing is this thing, and person was like, no. I said, I know and I even said I know what I'm saying. And then
Mm-hmm.
at the end, they had to show me like the actual document to be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh no, look, this is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh my God, it has started. And the person was like, oh no, we totally understand that, your father just died. And so you're going, but and that was not the only time. So many other things. One day I was doing something on the computer. I totally messed it up. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
I hope nobody noticed. Like, it's really, and those are the ones I caught. Um, but I know like I had about maybe four types of boo boo. Thank God
Yeah.
my kids can drive. So they drove me like the first 3 weeks of
Mm.
that. Like I wasn't trying to be good. Like I didn't even feel
Doing
like
anything.
go doing anything. I just felt like just stay like in the house. Me that I was not scared of turning light off. I'll be so many things. I'll leave my lights on in my room the whole
Mm.
beginning before we bury daddy. Like
Especially because like you told me, it's probably sudden. It
yes,
wasn't
yes, yes,
something that was prepared for.
yeah, yeah.
And the fact that you are not there when things were evolving, that leading to his death,
Hmm.
there
Hmm.
is still there will still be questions
Oh
that you will be questioning, like, but what
yes,
really happened?
yes,
How did this happen? How come,
yeah,
I wasn't aware? But
yeah.
to assure you, there are so many of them that you will not have any answers to.
Okay, okay.
So it's just better to let it be, take the take wanting to take control out of it and just
Mm.
let it go.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like 5,000
Mm-mm.
different questions.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, I remember that one conversation I had with him in September, and it wasn't like we didn't fight, we didn't argue, but it was almost like I wish I could remember the ending because that was like my actual almost last conversation. Any other thing, like me and my dad can be chatting for like 1 hour. Any other
Mm.
conversation apart from that, it was just like a few minutes of talking to him.
Mm.
Um, and that's my phone ringing in the background. Um, so yeah, like I was like, yeah, I wish I could have asked him more things. But anyway, like you said, that's we'll go and
You
answer
you
that
you
one.
you have to let go. Like an elderly person told me that for me,
Mhm.
you can continue asking questions.
Hmm.
Why? How come it's not like this? He said, you may never know the answers to
Mhm.
them. So you have to
Wow.
let go. So
Wow.
what an elderly person told me is what I'm telling you,
Mm,
that you
mm,
gotta let it go. Just when those questions come about,
mhm, mhm,
try to remember the good things about your dad, the
mhm.
good times, and the relationship that you had together.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, that's good. That's what you do too, Abby.
yeah,
When your own questions come up too.
yes. That's what I do, but it's not easy. It's gonna take time. Um, I usually don't call that often, but
Okay.
she will call. Or call me.
Mm,
Even when I don't pick up the phone, it's
mm,
soothing to hear a voice on the phone,
mhm,
and it
mhm,
it it makes me feel not guilty, even if I don't, because I mean I work nights sometimes, and it's like, okay, I'm looking at their time in Nigeria, that
mhm,
okay, I'm gonna wake her up, and so day goes by, and then it's almost like I have to really wake up, or make sure that I'm alert, to be able to carry on
mhm,
conversation.
mhm.
But
Intentional.
nonetheless, she
Mm.
wasn't taking that to her, that, oh, you know,
No, sounds like a really great mother.
so, but it is well.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So that was good. Thank you,
You're
Auntie.
welcome.
And let me see a question. Ooh, so I think this so in the last days prior to months, years maybe, is I think it goes with what we just said. Um
Mhm.
so then that would mean that one be reading between the lines, like, or just live life as it is, like, because like if you have so many questions
Mhm.
when when they pass, but at the same time you had opportunities to have the conversations with them
Before they died.
before they die, like, is that, but it's almost like questions of kinton, as they say in Yoruba, like, so should one have read, one could have done a better job to read between the line, I think, is maybe what I'm trying to say. Like, when I, in retrospect, I'm like, did the guy know he was gonna die? Like, can you even know you were gonna die? you know, I know this year, like during COVID, me and my dad, like like there was a time like every week we were chatting. So at least
Mm,
that's something that COVID gave us.
mm.
Before it'd be like maybe once or once every 2 weeks, or maybe like you once a month. But with COVID at the beginning, it was just like, hey daddy, how you doing? All those things. But then work came back to its pace and that reduced. But still, I remember some things he would say, he'd random like, oh, have you spoken to XYZ? What is ABC's number? And then, it'll be giving you some information that you didn't solicit. And, this is how you're supposed to behave. And then not even that, but even my dad was on WhatsApp and Facebook. Like all the things he'll be sending in WhatsApp. I remember I would be like, why is this sending all this information? Now those are the things you look back to. But I just wonder, so that would fit into what you just said, in that even if you could read between the lines, at some point we
What
should
were you
let it
going
go.
to do even if you knew? You were going to, um,
Quit
I don't
my
know.
job, quit my job and go stay with
I,
Tolu.
okay. It's unfortunate, and that's why God is God.
Yeah.
Um, it is. I mean, sometimes they said, like older people, they
Mm-hmm.
know when they're about to die.
Mm-hmm.
God gives some the grace to be able to tell people,
Mm.
and God gives others not a grace to be able
Mm-hmm.
to voice it out. I
Mm.
remember in one of the preachings that I've heard about Baba Kidayomi,
Mm-hmm.
the one that is the founder of
Redeem.
RCCG,
Mm-hmm.
that he knew when he was going to die, and he
Mm.
told them. And I don't know if they said that he ate pounded yam and whatnot, and sort of called everybody around, something like that.
Mm.
And God gave
Wow.
that one the grace. And I've
Mm-hmm.
heard of other stories too
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
people will actually tell.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
other people, they may not be able to tell, maybe because they think that this person will not be able to handle it, or
Mm.
maybe they just like, no, it can't be.
Mm.
I'm not ready, or something like that. Having said that, with mine, I know, like I said, I've been here like 2/3 of my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember that my mom, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks before passing on, asking me, Funlayo,
Mm.
and it was like, this mama never asked me this.
Wow.
So that was kind of like, oh boy.
Mm.
So, but then again, he didn't, I mean, of course, she didn't say anything, but that's like a clue. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it there. But I know it's imminent that, sooner or later, not too long, she's going to go because of she had end stage CHF, congestive heart failure, which, I mean, when people die, they will die with something, regardless. Death will come with something, whether the person, they may say, oh, he or she just slept and didn't wake up. We don't know what
Mm.
that person has been dealing with. And it just so happened that they just slept and
Mm-hmm.
didn't wake up
Mm-hmm.
from whatever it is. So like I said, sometimes they're able to, sometimes they're not able to. And
Mm.
that's God,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I mean, like Ezekiah in the Bible, the Lord told him that put your house in order, you are
Hmm.
going to die. And, God gave him that grace. He was able to, you know, um, put his supplication to God and say, look at what I've done with da 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 da. And God gave him 15 years more. However, if you read the story of his story, I don't think it's the last 15 years that he actually stayed was as good as prior. So
Mm.
sometimes be careful what you
Mm-hmm.
what you ask for. So, you know.
So there's this that I found out
Mm-hmm.
during the burial too. Um, is that okay? So my dad, I think we did 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
I think ours was 3 days. There was the service of song. There was the, I think the wake keeping, and then
Mm-hmm.
there was the, what's it called? Shoot, the actual burial and the interment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I was having a conversation with, with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Someone had called me and I was like, like I didn't even understand um what had been happening. No, is that
Mm-hmm.
right? No, someone on one of our Zoom burial had also mentioned that, oh, they had a Thanksgiving um thing. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wait, wouldn't that make it 4 days? And she was like, yes. It was like, what? It's like, where are they at? It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's like, we did 3 days. Did you? And she was like, oh yeah, people have like 5 days. 5 days for what?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
it's well.
It
So can
it
we talk about that? What are the days? What do the days mean? Can you even have longer than 5 days?
like I said, number one, remember I said in the beginning that if it's like someone who is elderly
Mm-hmm.
in the community, the day that person died, they will start cooking.
Mm,
Okay. And cooking brings money. I mean, you're going to have to spend money to
yeah.
cook and do whatnot. They will continue doing that. And then if you don't quickly say, okay, this is the time or whatever, and then people will come, you have to give them something. You have to,
Yeah.
because of our hospitality nature,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you have to give them something, give them water, this and that. And in the process, maybe make akara,
Mm-hmm.
bean cake, or something else, But like it depends on the how that person is in the society, in the community. Okay.
Mm, okay.
For example, I had an uncle who died in 2000 and anyway, he died couple of some years back. And this my uncle is a known person, was a chairman of National Football Association
Oh
in this
wow.
society, that society, was a high chief in Ibadan. The burial took place like a whole week.
Oh
Okay.
wow. That's 7 days.
Yeah, in Lagos, I mean, of course, once he died, they started cooking and this and
Okay.
that. So different group of friends, depending on society that it belongs to, different society wants to do like a service of song.
Mm,
They wanted to do service of song for him, and they did.
wow.
Then in his church, we had to do another service of song. Then, of course, he's a high chief in Ibadan. They now took his body in a procession,
Oh
and we
wow.
all followed. I had to go to Nigeria. We all
Wow.
followed him all the way. They took him to, my dear, it was too much, but we were all in there because I mean, I went to, and mind you, each of the function is
Mm-hmm.
different ashwebi,
Oh yeah, that too.
different ashwebi for each of the function for that uncle of mine. And then we laid him in state in his home in Ibadan, and then they now took him to church. I mean, the church was packed all over. All the
Wow.
chiefs in
Wow.
Ibadan, they came all over Nigeria. They came.
Wow.
Then we now did the internment,
Okay.
and then I think we had a break. At least I didn't. I refused to go to their house on Saturday. I don't know if anything happened. And then on Sunday we went in for the Thanksgiving.
Wow.
And like I said, each of these thing,
Mm-hmm.
there are, the wives, of course he has two wives. So the wife on this part did hers, and the wife in Lagos that I know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
she did so many,
Oh,
because
that's
she has so many friends and they all did and this, and I mean, it was just,
Wow.
It was a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot because
It was
I
a
just
lot.
feel like you can put all these things onto an agenda and it can fit a day.
That's the American in you that is
American.
talking, because if none of that happened, definitely there's going to be a service of song.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Definitely. And
mm-hmm.
then after the service of song, the following day is actually the burial.
Burial. Yeah.
Usually it's Thursday, and then Friday is the burial, and then Sunday is the
It's
Thanksgiving in
Thanksgiving.
church.
So basic, at least you'll have
At
three
least
days.
3 days, yes. At
Wow.
least 3 days. So
Wow.
that's how it is
Uh, the-
in
I think
Nigeria.
in Nigeria, yeah, yeah. Here it's you
Yeah, it
know,
could be
I think
one day, or yeah, usually it's one day or
I
2 days,
most
depending
people,
on.
yeah, most people are, yeah, it's like one day, but maybe I think I've seen like the Nigerian community that do it here. Maybe they could do 2 days. They do
Yeah,
service
mostly
on
it's two days, or
2 days. Yeah.
and 2 days because of the timing.
Hmm. They'll do
And sometimes,
Friday service
yeah,
of song,
and
then
sometimes it's just Friday. They do service of song, and from there, they
go
take
to
the
the
body.
burial.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think one day, one day, one day is good enough. But it's a lot. But maybe it helps the healing process. I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like it's a lot.
I guess I think in the Christian community, or maybe I don't know if the Muslim does it too, but I'm only used to the Christian community. Mostly
But
that's
Muslims bury the same day. Thinking about like if you pass,
mm-hmm.
I think
They
there's like a
they bury
timeline.
them
Yeah,
within 24 hours.
yeah.
Within
So
24 hours, but in the process, they will still
mhm.
be doing, you maybe cooking, and doing
Okay,
this and doing that. So
okay, okay.
yes, they will bury within 24 hours, but there will still be cooking. And then on the 8th day,
Hmm.
they'll do something. Then they call it 40 days or something like that.
Oh yes, we are gonna have a 40 days. Yeah,
Yeah.
Akara. I'm
Yeah,
talking.
most even that is a cultural thing, the 40
Hmm.
days,
Hmm.
regardless of being a Muslim or Christian. They do 40 days. And it's just something small.
A small remembrance that we haven't
Yes.
forgotten you.
And
I
then they
think.
will do 1 year,
Yes.
1 year. So 1 year, even if you're not there, they will still do something.
Yeah.
Maybe again, it could be something simple, maybe a cara of puff puff, and they will just distribute it in the community.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
think we have 40 days and then we have the 1 year coming up for us. So I
Yeah.
think I want to use your medical background. So I'm going to ask like this question. How do you get over the grief of this death? So I know we've delved into the culture, but I know how I've dealt with mine a little. Um, I just feel like everything I've done is part of my process. Is the way I'm thinking now. And even having the conversation with you about this whole conversation is also helping me too. But I feel like mentally, from a medical perspective, a lot, and I may be generalizing, I feel like a lot of people bottle grief because sometimes you're dismissed, like, my stop my don't think about it, is what you hear, or like, you're strong, but I know I'm strong, but like it, and the fact that I know me, I also know that I'm weak. So you may say that to me publicly, but I know myself better now in 2020. I will go and still grieve. But if there's someone out there who doesn't know themselves and who takes the opinion of like everybody seriously, and they say, you're strong, you can keep pushing through. Like, what can that person do to still privately grieve the death of their loved one?
Well, grieving is individual.
Mhm.
Um, it depends on what and who that person is to you. Definitely there's going to be a void when somebody passes on to glory. The void may be negative, the void may be positive, and I mean that there are some people that died, and you know, it's almost like, even though we are not supposed to talk bad about people that has died, but there are times that when some people die, it's like,
Thank you, Jesus.
yeah. And so if it's a positive thing for you, I mean, if it's a positive, how do I explain that? For example, when you lost your dad, you will remember all the positive, all the good memory, and all of that. So when you remember that, of course, that will bring that grieving process. Like, oh my God, how am I gonna? I will never see this person again. How am I gonna go through this? But that is the time that you're gonna have to come to realization that as a Christian, we will meet again. That should give you, how do I say it? Oh God, mental fog.
Reassurance. Maybe?
That should reassure you that yes, we will meet again. And you will start remembering the good times, the good things that you've done together, being a good father, being a good grandfather, being supportive of you. And mind you, there could be some guilt from your part that, gee, I should have done this. I wish I could have done this for him. I wish that when he asked me for this, I wish I could have done that. But it's done, it's done. You have to let go. Because the more that you think about that, the more you are going to be sinking and sinking into that rumination on, why didn't I do this when he asked me? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? And again, like I said before, you may never know the answers to all the whys or how or when. So it's a good thing that you are a Christian, a born again Christian, and that should be your motto, that when you are weak in Christ. You are weak in him because he is your strength.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
I am not going to tell you not to grieve. I'm not, for example, recently, we just buried a sister's younger sister. And we were all going there, and it's going to be like, oh, you got to be strong. Oh, you got to, sometimes when people die, they have to, the relative, they have to process it.
Yes.
And when people are around them at that time, they may not even feel anything until when people are gone.
Okay.
And that's when they're going to be feeling it. So I'm not going to tell you not to grieve your dad. I'm not going to tell you to be strong. I'm not going to tell you to cry. If you feel like crying, let it out. You gotta let it out. That's the only way that you can grieve it. That's the only way that you can get it out of your system. It's a good thing that you're in therapy. You talk to your therapist. You can call up, and if you have a long appointment, you can call up and say, look, I'm just not myself, and they will usually honor your request so that you can talk it out. Then again, it has to do with our culture. You know, our culture, when we're growing up, they're beating you and they'll be saying, shut up, stop crying. If you cry, well, you're beating somebody and you're telling them not to cry. So it's always the same as somebody, one just lost a loved one and you say, oh, you need to be strong.
Yeah, that's so true.
So how can I be strong when I just lost somebody? So the time to grieve varies. Like I said, sometimes it may be up to 2 years. But if it's beyond that, then something else is creeping in.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
but then again, I'm glad that you are in therapy. You
Mhm.
probably, I mean, you may be feeling, and grieving, but it won't be something that will kind of, shut you down, that
Yeah.
will make you
Yes, I've
have.
noticed that. I've been lucky,
So,
and
yeah. So,
I ramped up my session like the week that my dad died. Well, the week after, I was like, you know what? I need to see you like every week. So,
yeah,
so,
yeah,
so that helped me through it.
yeah,
And I don't know about other people how they deal with this, but I'm like, look, if I didn't have my support, like, um, I would have been a total mess. So,
mm,
so that was definitely something good. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, is there any other way, like maybe one other way we can deal with our grief? Maybe one last way.
Well, just make sure that you don't, you reach out to people,
Mm,
constantly reaching out to people. Make sure that even though we're saying that, being with a therapist, there are still some people that you can, call and say, hey, this is going on with me, or just to talk. Maybe
mm-hmm.
you may not even talk, to depth about what is going on. You just picking up the phone. Although we're all used to this text and WhatsApp and sometimes talking. And that's
Yeah.
what is making a lot of people become so depressed and anxious, because you are not hearing human voice anymore.
Mm-hmm.
All we do now is texting. And so I I will implore on everybody to, once in a while, to just pick up the phone and call people and just talk to them, just hear their voice. And my this may not be related to grieving. Um, when my mind is on somebody
Mm-hmm.
and it's constantly, I just pick up the phone and I call.
Mm,
Whether they pick up the phone or not, they may reply me. And there's been times that it's almost like, oh, when you call, we were so it's a good thing that you called, so because you just don't know what people are going through, especially with this time that we're in with
yeah,
this COVID-19. So,
I totally agree. Oh, okay.
yeah.
That's good. As we round up, I would just want to ask you if there's anything that you would like to share that maybe we haven't touched on in our conversation today, and what activities do you have coming up in the future that maybe we can support you on. um, I'm sure there might be people who would love to talk more about how they cope with their own grief. Can you help them? But most importantly, share anything that you're working on and where people can find you.
Well, right now, I mean, I can't really. I'm not a therapist per se. I'm not a psychotherapist, um, but in the process of medication management, I can give a little bit of therapy, which, according to how we are trained, we do refer people for therapy. Um, However, like I said, my main goal, which I'm embarking on, God help me, with
Amen.
is I in my community, I want to destigmatize mental health.
Okay.
I want people to be able to talk freely with about mental health.
Okay.
Um, because like I said in the beginning, if your mental health is not okay, you can't take care of yourself. We're able to talk freely about hypertension, diabetes, even cancer,
Mm,
but we're
mm-hmm,
not able to talk about
mm-hmm,
depression,
mm-hmm,
anxiety,
mm-hmm,
or schizophrenia.
mm-hmm.
And many of these things with um, habit changes, changing how you eat, even when you change how you eat, when you change your lifestyle changes, like exercising every day, it decreases depression, it decreases anxiety. Believe it or not, it decreases your chance of having cancer. Oh. And also, if you drink plenty of fluid, meaning water, daily, many of these diseases that we have, it decreases them. So one of my goals when I set up my private practice is
praise the Lord,
making sure that you eat your food as medicine. Remember that I told you I have nutrition background, master prepared from NYU. Although in those days, it wasn't really ingrained in people, but this is, we've now seen that if you eat well, if you do things right, exercising, eating the right food, your food as medicine, not eating to, you're eating to live, but not living to eat. So if you incorporate all of that, you have a better lifestyle and you have a better outlook in life, healthy, emotionally and physically.
Okay. I love that. We're gonna do something again.
We will.
On the
and thank you for having me, because it's something that I need to be doing, and you and I, we're going to talk some more on this. And okay.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you so much. So for everyone listening, you can link in the blog post for information on how to reach Auntie, and I'll provide either my information so you can reach her, or she'll share her information if you ever need to reach her in the future. So thank you everyone for listening to today's podcast. We hope that you have been able to gain some insights into our very, very beautiful culture in Nigeria of burial, and also how we intertwined that with mental health. So thank you so much for listening. See you again on the next episode. Thank you, Auntie.
Bye-bye. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.